is preparing live stream. Got it.
Yeah, looks good.
It's redirecting. And I will just check that we are in the right account. I'm almost, yeah, we are there, guys.
We are there.
Let's let the people come in. I will admit everyone. Everyone is joining, and
Hello, everyone.
No.
Leo,
So,
you are muted. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Please
sorry,
unmute
it's fine.
yourselves.
It looks like it's working.
My mistake.
welcome everybody, and thanks very much for coming along. So, we're joined with Lucas, and we're joined with Leo, and I'll just pass you over to Lucas for a moment.
Okay. Hello, everyone. We are so glad to have you all here. This is, again, the same class we did the last time, but I know Leo have some new stuff. So I think you will enjoy this class, like the last ones we had. And this is just part of the ongoing training we want to give to you to improve and explore your breathing in different ways based on Patrick's work. So very honored to be here with you, Patrick, with Leo. And please, Patrick, if you can introduce Leo.
Sure. Leo is an interesting background, and he can bring a lot of experience in regards to breathwork to the table. He is coming from professional athlete in terms of he was a national gymnast in France, and that's where he's living. And he's speaking to us from Paris. He's also a master instructor for the Wim Hof method, and he's a master instructor for the oxygen advantage. So he's bringing both modalities together. And I suppose the thing about the breath is that sometimes there's various different ways of getting to the same place, and a lot of confusion because, even I remember I was talking with Dan Brolé, and it can be very, one breathing exercise is saying one thing, another breathing exercise is saying another thing. How do you know what exercise is for you? What dimensions are the breathing exercises targeting? Is it targeting the biochemistry or the biomechanics or the autonomic nervous system? Is it stressing the body? Is it relaxing the body? So the emphasis of this is going to be more so on stressing the body. And Leo will be bringing his experience and his practical knowledge, and also guide us through a breathing exercise towards the end, which is going to be interesting. So Leo, I'm going to pass over to you.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for the introduction. I'm glad to have, again, some time together with all of you, with Lucas, with Patrick, and people listening from home. We did this talk last time, and we had plenty of questions, and it was very successful. So we decided to do it again because the numbers were limited last time, and a lot of you wanted to enter. So hopefully this time we'll make it. So the approach that I'm going to have tonight in terms of breathing and talking about breathing is maybe a little bit unconventional for what you may have seen so far. And I'm going to divide my intervention in 3 points, and then we're going to practice, and then we're going to take questions with Patrick. So the first point that I'm going to talk is the physiology of breathing, the 3 dimensions of breathing, the variables of breathing. Those are 7. We're going to see the principles that that work with breathing, those 4 principles that relates to the 3 dimensions of breathing. And we are going to put stress at the center of the talk with what we call hormatic stress. On the second point, we're going to see some study some points between fast and slow breathing and how this can impact physiology, because we're going to see how with breathing we can change our physiology in different directions. Different exercises are going to give us different results in terms of physiology for the 3 dimensions. And the last point that we're going to cover is the transition between the physiology fast versus slow breathing and what we call hormatic breathing. So hormatic breathing are those breathing exercises that are gonna use hormesis as the basis. And we're gonna practice one of the new exercises of Patrick's book, that is the Katana breathing exercises. So this is what we're gonna see, and I'm going to start. So uh, first of all, my background is on breathing is quite is mixed up. Is 360-degree. Let's say I had the chance to have different masters to teach me breathing with different approach, and I love that because I found those very complementary. So the synergies between the differences, I thought it was a great power into the breathing practice and not contradiction. So I used the logic of and instead of the logic or of instead. And using that, I sort of moved around what we can call the 360 view on breathing, because this is what actually we need in terms of breath. And doing that, I was very much interested in terms of physiology, on what are the effects on my body, on my mind, on my nervous system, on my autonomic systems when I do some breathing exercises. And the answer is that there are so many different effects depending on what we do. And with Patrick, we emphasize that when we work on breathing in the oxygen advantage from Buteco, we need to address three main dimensions. And if we overlook one of these three, then our approach can be good, but cannot be complete. So these three approaches, as Patrick was saying at the beginning, are the biochemistry, the biochemical approach, in terms of how gases are changing our blood, the pH, the Bohr effect. And then that the first one. Then the second one is the biomechanical approach. So which parts of the body are now involved in our breathing in the moment we breathe? Is that the diaphragm? Is the chest? Is on the lower back? Is that the nose? Is that the mouth? Are we gonna make some restrictions? Are we gonna move some internal parts to the abdomen, for example? We can see that in yoga, we use that a lot with bandhas. So that's the second dimensions. And then the third dimension is the psychophysiological dimension. What's the impact on the nervous system, generally the central nervous system or the autonomic nervous system, so the peripheric nervous system. And we can impact the chemistry, as we said. We can impact the heart rate, we can impact the sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system, the brain waves, etc. with the breathing. And it is really important to understand on which parameters, which variables we can play. And when I try to make a list of these variables in terms of exercises and in terms of a study of the breath in itself, I found seven main variables we can play with to create breathing techniques. And when we know that there are three dimensions, and then we know that there are some principles, then we can play. And if we move the levers, the variables higher or lower, if we put more gas or remove some gas on one of those variables, we can sort of predict more or less what is going to be the results in terms of physiology. So let's see what these variables are. And maybe there are others. Maybe you can come up with other variables that you have seen in the breath that we can play with. But these seven, I think, are the main ones we can play. The first one, maybe because it's the most important one, at least I think it is the rhythm. The rhythm, I would say, is the ratio between inhale and exhale. Mainly this play between those two. And it interacts very much with what we can call the frequency. So how many breaths we have in a given amount of time. And if you put those two together, then you have a rhythm, and then you have a tempo, and then you have a melodies, like in the music. You can have different changes with notes and different tempo, and then you create music. And with rhythm and frequency, we sort of put those two together with the breath. The third one that is also very important is the volume, in terms of a unit of the amount of air we breathe, the volume of air we breathe with one breath, or ventilation, how much it is in a given amount of time. Generally speaking, we consider the minute as a reference for time, for the frequency, for the volume, but of course it can be another one. Then we have the anatomy in terms of which part of the body, which muscles, which chains are we using to breathe? Because we can use different ones. We have main muscles, we have auxiliary muscles. So we can actually choose and we can move that on a voluntary basis. So is that the diaphragm? Are those the abdominals? Do we use the lower back? Is that the rib cage and the intercostal muscle? Is that the thorax? Is that the shoulders? Or is that, all together? We can really play using in a different order these, or maybe putting all of these together, or just choosing one on another. Then we have the nose and the mouth, that is also part of the anatomy, but that plays a major role with biochemistry as well. So I just put it on the side because breathing with the nose or breathing with the mouth is going to give quite different results in terms of perfusion, in terms of oxygenation, in terms of impact on the nervous system. So we have the nose or we have the mouth. And then another variable is, are we going to practice a technique, a conscious breathing technique where we modify things, or are we going to go on an involuntary basis breathing? Is that unconscious? So are we going to put in a control, some mastery over it, or is our breath that is expressing himself on the basis of some need that we have? An example is I practice the breathe light exercise, is conscious exercise, or I'm sleeping and I'm breathing, that's unconscious. And then we have the breath holds. And then the breath holds, of course, you know what it is. We can do full lungs breath holds, empty lungs breath holds, or all in between. And of course, the impact on the biochemistry and the nervous system is not the same. So when we play with those 7 variables, then we have some sort of results in terms of principles. So there are some basic rules that comes from science and physiology that tells us that if we do one thing or another, the results is more or less going to be the same. And one of those first principles that I want to mention, because it's a bit on its own, is the balance of opposites. And what do I mean with the balance of opposites? I mean that in general, on the 360 possibilities of breath that we have, we should be able to move in between the full spectrum of what we are capable of doing in theory. So we should be able to do fast breath and slow breath, big breath and small breaths. We should be able to use the nose. We should be able to use the mouth. We should be able to do full a breath hold with full lungs and with empty lungs. We should be able to use the diaphragm, but also the chest. We should be able to increase the rhythm or decrease the rhythm, change the frequency, etc. Okay, so this is the idea. If you have a 360 view of the space, then it's a little bit the same with breath. If we can do that, that's a good sign. And in general, like healthy breathing, you should be able to change that. And this is sort of, let's talk about in breath mastery. You sort of express a certain level of mastery over your breath if you can do that. So some things are good for some other objectives or some goals, and some others are going to give as other results. But in general, we should be able to change in all directions. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible to reach some points. And those points in the space are expressed in the body as our physiology, of course. So that means that if we can change our breath in the way we want, we can impact the physiology and go where we want in terms of physiology. For example, let's digest better this meal, or let's develop more force in this muscle, or let's increase the heart rate, let's be more vigilant, let's have more concentration or more endurance, etc. Okay, and then of course this is translated in hormones and answers in the body. The other 3 principles, because I'm talking about 4 now, but I'm sure that maybe we can come up with something else and you can maybe think about it, is the first one is biomechanical principle is nose and mouth. And we know that the nose is for breathing, the mouth is for talking, eating, or all other things. But of course, there is a change in the organ function, and we can swap the two, but in general, for what is rest, breathing, or sport at quite not so much high intensity training, we use the nose, and this has a series of impact also on biochemistry. So this part are really different in terms of what we have in the lungs and then what we're going to have in the cells. And Patrick talks about Bohr effect, about the fact that the nose filters the air, that humidifies the air, that warms up the air, that is going to produce nitric oxide, and etc. So this is one of the principles. In general, nose is for breathing, the mouth is for the other things. And this has a link with the biochemistry. And biochemistry, we can see, for example, the impact of the breath holds, hypoxia, hypercapnia, the fact that we stop the exchange with the outside world. Because the human body has two systems that are open to the atmosphere or to what is outside us. And one is the breathing system, and one is the digestion system. One is the nose, one is the mouth. That's why we have two ways of. And when we stop those exchanges, then things are going to change in our lungs, are going to change in our blood, are going to change in our cells, in our tissues. And then, of course, the chemistry is changing. The pH is changing. The affinity of oxygen and CO2 with hemoglobin is changing, and many other things. So when we stop breathing, breath holds in general, we're going to see an increase in CO2 and a decrease in O2. And we can play with that. Hypoxic and hypercapnic training is the basis of the oxygen advantage. And then one third principle is breathing in versus breathing out. And this links with the third dimension of the breath, that is the psychophysiological dimension, and the autonomic nervous system. We had we talked a lot about the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic branches. One is the fight or flight, the accelerator is the sympathetic, and one is the rest, digest, regenerate, is the parasympathetic one, and then you just digest your meal, you stop, you break. And if you breathe in, generally this is the yang, is the accelerator. When you breathe out, generally this is the break, the yin. And if you play with these two, the ratio with these two, you play so in the rhythm of your breath, and you play with the frequency, then you're gonna so much impact your autonomic nervous system and also the central. So this is the picture that I wanted to give you of the spectrum of the breath, because it's going to explain what we're gonna do next. And then, of course, if you have questions about that, we can come back to it, and you can write it in the chat, and Lucas is going to take it, and we're gonna answer at the end and discuss. But so to have a recap, 3 dimensions of breathing, 7 variables, 4 main principles. And when we have this in mind, we can make any sort of breathing technique to go from point A to point B. And more or less is going to work. Then, of course, there are some other things that are going to impact us. But this is sort of how we study it. So this is going to make the transition with the second point, that is fast versus slow. So for what we talked so far, fast versus slow is going to impact mainly the frequency variable, but it's also going to impact the volume and the ventilation, of course, because the anatomical gesture movement is not going to same if you do it very fast or very slow. Of course, we know that. For example, the full yogic breath, you breathe 5 liters of air with one breath. But if you do it in 1 second or in 10 seconds, it's not really going to give you the same volume unless you are really, really good with breathing. So this is an example. And the same is if you do it with the nose or with your mouth, is it going to give you the same volume? So slow and fast. This is gonna change also in the conscious and unconscious, because when you're gonna change the rhythm, you are gonna do it willingly. So you're gonna choose to move that. And So you're going to play with those variables, making fast or slow breath, and those are going to change what is going to happen. For example, if you make slow techniques, for example, the breathe light of the oxygen advantage, box breathing with a rhythm of 3 or maybe 4 or maybe 5, if you make relaxation techniques of pranayama, then what is going to happen is that you're going to mainly activate the parasympathetic nervous system, that are gonna probably increase your tissue oxygenation. You're gonna help the Bohr effect to get oxygen to the tissue. Probably you're gonna reduce the dead volume. And there are a lot of things that are gonna happen with this slow breathing. And what happens when you do fast breathing? For example, fire breaths, Kapalabhati or Bastrika from pranayama, or again, Tumo or Wim Hof breathing, or Sudarshan Kriya. There are so many techniques that use fast connected breathing. And then again, you're going to change because you're probably going to activate more the sympathetic part of the nervous system. You're going to maybe change the oxygenation of the tissues. And of course, you're going to change the CO2 in the tissues. And then probably you're going to switch from nose to mouth if you cannot keep up with the rhythm, or you want to exhale to get detox. And again, there are many things that are going to happen. And what is important is that if you move around with fast, with slow, with the variables, you can choose to willingly stress your body. And the stress that we're talking about now is not negative stress that we're gonna just feel and we cannot do anything about it, but we're gonna do it that with the knowing what is going to produce and doing that in a certain margin. And this is what we call hormatic stress. It is a short, intense stress that we put in our system so that it reacts. So basically what's happening is that we are gonna disrupt homeostasis, the balance in our body, in a voluntary way, that we're gonna move from the center and the body is obliged to answer. And this is gonna boost adaptation in your body. And this is the principle of hormesis, a short, intense stress that you can handle because you put it in, that is going to disrupt the balance that you have to make it stronger in a second phase. And so if we play with that, we can strengthen our physiology. We can balance our physiology in the long run. We have in the short term, we're going to play with this, go out of the comfort zone. We're going to put in stress with the breath because we're going to accelerate, decelerate. We're going to move from the nose to the mouth. We're going to do breath holds, full lungs, empty lungs. We're going to increase the volume, we're going to decrease the volume, hyperventilation, hypoventilation. And then your body is obliged to adapt. It's like a training. It's like a full spectrum training of your body. You're going to do push-ups, then pull-ups, then you run, then you do abs, then you're going to swim, then you're going to climb. So with the breath, it's a bit the same. And what is fun is that the main principle of breath is saying that we should be able to do that. And in fact, the many techniques from ancient practices, like in pranayama, they put this in. And what is fun is that they play with the homeostasis, with the stress. And what they usually do is that they combine fast and slow. They combine hyperventilation with hypoxia, with breath holds. They combine moments where you do very fast and strong breath with the diaphragm, with moments where you just use tiny amounts of air from the nose, and etc. And so this is the principle that I used to create this breathing technique that we're going to practice. That is the Katana breathing technique. The main point of this technique is to put into practice all of what we have seen now to make a complete exercise that plays with mostly of the variables according to the principles and the dimensions of breath that we have seen to gain in breath mastery. So the point of this technique is a training, because any technique has an objective, and it's really important that you know why you practice. For example, if you practice the breathe light because you wanna train hypoventilation and hypercapnic response, then it's great. It's not gonna work on hyperventilation. You're not gonna train the maximum volume of air you're gonna put in your lungs, for example. And on vice versa, if you are playing with hyperventilation, this is not gonna increase your tolerance to CO2. So those are main things that we should know. And maybe not everyone has in mind, but what we can do is to put into practice exercises that take in consideration these. And so we can do it. So to recap all of these, the Katana breathing exercise is a training exercise for breath mastery that combines short hyperventilation with breath holds, full lungs, empty lungs, and hypoventilation in very slow breaths. And one last part of the exercise, unconscious free breathing, to let the body adapt at the end as it needs to do. So it is a catabolic anabolic exercise. We train first, then we let it go. And it's like a full cycle. And it uses the variables for the 3 dimensions. Biochemistry is going hypoxic. We are going hypercapnic. We use the diaphragm. We use the ribs. We use the chest. We do tiny breath and we do big breaths. And he's using the psychophysiological because we have fast breath at the beginning. Then we stop with breath holds. Then we go very slow. And we put all of these in one cycle that lasts, I'm not really sure how much because it depends on the breath mastery of any one of you. And we're going to play a game after that. But this is the point. And then we train the breath. So that's what we're going to do. And I describe you how it's going to happen, because how is the exercise exactly? And then we practice. So how we're going to do that? First of all, we're going to start with 6 full breaths. And when I mean full, is that it means that we are going to go at a rhythm that is not very fast, but accelerated with big volumes using the full yogic breath. The full yogic breath, if you don't know what it is belly, chest, upper chest, shoulder. So it's a full breath in. We're going to try to maximize the expansion of the lungs to get the full volume of the lungs in a quite short time. So we're going to go into a phase that is controlled hyperventilation. The CO2 is going down. The oxygen is saturation a little bit in the blood more. The partial pressure is going up. We are activating the sympathetic nervous system. We're going to charge up, let's say it like that. Then we stop for a second to make a contrast between this fast phase and a full exhale, that we just let it go naturally. So we really make the contrast. And when you're going to let it go after this short stop, we're going to activate straight away the parasympathetic nervous system. So first of all, we have this change. And when we arrive at the end of the exhale, we stop. We're going to make a breath hold that is going to be as long as we can comfortably hold. So we're going to challenge ourselves, but it's not a competition in terms of I'm going to do too much. And we're going to talk about precautions before we practice. So we do this full breath, these empty lungs breath holds as much as we can. And when we cannot anymore, we breathe in fully, but as slowly as we can. So now we really need to be in control of our breath, because the voluntary response, involuntary response would be just breathe in. You went hypoxic, you went a little bit hypercapnic regarding how much you hold that. And then you just want to breathe in. But no, we're going to breathe in as slowly as we can. We arrive at the top of the inhale and we stop and we hold again. We're going to do a full lungs breath holds. And we go farther away in the hypercapnic zone, more CO2. We hold that. We have the first involuntary spasm of the diaphragm. And we exhale. And again, that's the challenge. You're going to exhale as slowly as you can. There's no danger if you need to exhale, just let it go. But the exercise is to control the exhale and do it as slowly as you can. When we arrive at the bottom, we're going to do 3 slow breath. This is hypoventilation. We're gonna stay into the hypercapnic zone a little bit longer. And depending on the mastery that you have on those feeling and sensation and the physiological aspect of your chemoreceptor, that you're gonna be able to control more or less your breath. And after those 3 breaths, we just release, we let it go. And for a minute, we let the breath breathe yourself. So you do not control anymore. This is what we call a Katana breathing exercise. That, as you might have understood, is not a few seconds, but rather some minutes of an exercise. And what I propose you to do is to practice once all together with a fixed amount of time for each phase, so you get it in. And then a second time, you just practice it and you give your best. And we put the starter on and then we do it. But just in case, in terms of precautions, don't push too much. If you are pregnant, this is not the best exercise for you. If you feel that you have the heart that is going too much, then just let go your breath, breathe in, stop the exercise. It's fine to feel heat, the hands warm, the feet warm, but if it is too much, if you're getting anxious, it means that you need to let it go a little bit and just take some rest. So it should be a training, but at your level, okay? So any feelings that the exercise is too much, just give yourself a break, maybe just exhale quicker, and don't force it. This is not the best exercise for people that suffer from panic attack, for people that are pregnant, for people that have cardiovascular disease. But in general, the principle is never force. Challenge yourself, never force, okay? And I don't know, Patrick, if you want to add something before we practice.
I think it would be good to put a diagram up. And I would say to you that this is quite a stressor of an exercise. So when you hyperventilate for the 6 full breaths, you will be removing a lot of carbon dioxide from the blood through the lungs. This will cause blood vessels to constrict, including reducing blood flow to the brain. So for those of you who are sensitive to vertigo or dizziness, I would say don't do it. Now, you don't, as Leo said, you don't have to go in full in. It's really just a technique. So instead of taking the full big breaths, you could go halfway. I would say just practice it yourself and see how your body responds, because the thing about breathing is we don't always know how people respond to different breaths. Now, I'm just wondering if somebody can make me the host. So just in terms of sharing the screen.
I think Lucas can do it, but otherwise I can take it from the book in the meantime, because we have a diagram in the new book of Patrick.
Sure. I think you can share it now, Patrick.
Okay, so I have it there. So that's great. So as Leonardo was explaining, we are taking 6 full breaths. So you're breathing in and out and in and out. And maybe it might be useful to keep this so people have a visual. So you're taking, these are quite full breaths in and out, and you're having 6 full breaths here. And then you're having a breath in and you're holding here for about 5 seconds. And this will allow more oxygen to transfer from the lungs into the blood. The 6 full breaths here are going to get rid of quite an amount of carbon dioxide from the lungs and from the blood. So this is going to drive up blood pH. Now this can cause your blood vessels to constrict, and this can cause a left shift of the oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. So there's reduced oxygen delivery because the bond between hemoglobin and oxygen is strengthened. But this is a stressor, and the whole purpose of this exercise is to stress the body, as Leonardo was talking about. It's a controlled stress to get the body to make adaptations, which in actual fact, if you look at physical exercise is also a stressor. Here we are using the breath. You breathe in and hold.
CO2 is going down in the first 6 full breaths of the arrow.
Yes. Yeah, and blood pH, is increasing. And then after holding the breath for 5 seconds, oxygen transfer is going to be diffusing from the lungs into the blood. And then you do an exhalation and you hold, and this will be a relatively long breath hold because carbon dioxide is being depleted. So the length of the breath hold will be longer than normal because carbon dioxide is the primary stimulus to breathe. When you feel the first involuntary contractions of the diaphragm, then to let go, but to breathe in. And you're inhaling then, and you're holding your breath for as long as possible. This is a stressor. So this is the second form of the stress here, and this is going to be the third form. So this is going to be interesting because this breath hold now is going to restore blood gases, and carbon dioxide levels are going to increase, but oxygen levels are going to drop during the breath hold. So here you have hypocapnic, and you will have increased oxygen transfer from the lungs into the blood. It won't necessarily increase the saturation of your hemoglobin with oxygen, but it will increase the oxygen dissolved in the plasma. So the PO2 in millimeters of mercury pressure, arterial PO2 is going to increase here. High oxygen, low CO2. And then you're going from increased CO2, which is accumulating during the breath hold, and low oxygen again. And then you breathe in and hold, and the breath in, you've got oxygen transfer from the lungs to the blood. And during the breath hold, your blood oxygen saturation is going to drop at this point here, and your carbon dioxide is going to be increasing. Now, this breathe slow here, I'm not sure if Leonardo will do a breathe light or is it a breathe slow, but this is just to help with recovery. And yeah, is there anything else that you want to?
Breathe light because it's very slow.
Okay.
Everyone is doing it as slow as he can in the same principle of the breathe light.
So this is going to generate an air hunger here. So you're going to have increased CO2. So it's basically balancing the loss of, so you have hypocapnia here and you'll have hypercapnia here. You will have restoration of CO2. It's quite an interesting one, Leo, because it's almost that it's giving the autonomic nervous system a shake, and you're stressing the body here, but then you have recovery.
Yes.
But for people, as Leo said, people with panic disorder, people with anxiety, if you have dizziness, vertigo, if you have any cardiovascular complaints, I would say don't do it, because it can be quite. Now, go through the motions of it without taking the full big breaths. You know, you can be breathing in nice and easy and out and nice and easy, and do the rhythm of the 6 breaths if you're a little bit wary of it, and then just breathe out and hold your breath until involuntary contractions. This is fine. And then breathe in, and you could hold your breath here until involuntary contractions, and then breathe light. For those of you who are relatively fit and healthy, you can go the full hog, so to experience it. But as Leo says, listen to your body. Listen to your body.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, that was a great explanation on what's going to happen.
Leo,
inside.
Can you put yourself on full screen as well? Sorry, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Just so that people can see you.
You can see me full now? Or not?
We can do it through the speaker view. Okay, yeah. Okay, we can all do it individually.
Okay.
Nice.
So let's practice one first time together so you get used to it. And we do it very gently at the beginning. So I'm gonna guide you through something that should be easy, or at least not too difficult, so we can all follow. So we're just gonna do the breath, and then each phase is just 10 seconds. Breath hold 10 seconds. But again, you know better than me if it's fine or not. If it's still too much, just go it slowly, and then you will do it on your own the next one. So sitting, that's ideal. You can also do it laying down, relaxed in a safe place, on the couch, on a yoga mat, at home. So if you are driving, that's not the good time for doing it. If you are in a pool, that's also not the good time of doing it. You should really be safe and comfortable. Relax, no tension during the exercise. The mouth is closed, but there is no tension in the teeth. So you're not gonna clench your teeth, it's just relaxed mouth, and the tongue is on the roof of the palate. So we're gonna start with the full breath. So we breathe in from the belly, going up all the way, and then we breathe out. We just release, and then again, we fully breathe in. And we exhale. And again, fully breathing in. We exhale. We go with big volumes or just as much as you feel. We breathe in. Full yogic breath. Breathing out. And again, activating. Full breathing in. And letting go with no tension. Again, from the belly, we go up intercostal to the chest. And we exhale. And again, fully in. Exhale. We do one last all together. We breathe in fully. We hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We exhale. And we stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we inhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We exhale slowly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We inhale slowly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One last full breathing in slowly. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhaling. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And just let it go now. And for some seconds, some moments, some time, you just let the breath do whatever it wants. Now you just breathe as it comes. So just relax. Is the recovery phase, is part of the exercise. It's not just not doing anything. It's part of the exercise. It's just giving some time to come back to the center. So we need this time, especially when we try to challenge ourselves. So 10 seconds more in this resting phase to end up the exercises. Come back to the center. And then if you had your eyes closed, you can open it and just move a little bit. And this was 3.5 minutes for one Katana cycle. So this was quite a fast one, let's say. Maybe it was challenging, maybe it was not. Maybe you have been eating before, so it's more challenging. Ideally, you do that at an empty stomach or not close to big meals. Digestion-wise, it's not great to challenge yourself with the Hormatic Stress and breathing when you have a full belly. So that was the exercise, one cycle. We did it in 3.5 minutes, considering the pose. And now what we're going to do is just as a game, I'm going to start the timer and everyone is going to do his own Katana cycle. And I'll just let you know when the time starts, and every minute or so, I'm going to give you the time so you know more or less how long it was, your Katana cycle. And it is a sort of measurement of your breath mastery, let's say, or at least in that moment, how much you can control your breath, depending on many things. One of those things is if you ate, another one if you're tired, another one if you're stressed, and etc. Okay. So is that the cycle? Yeah, the cycle is there in the screen, so you can see it. 6 full breaths, hold 5 seconds, exhale, and first breath hold as long as you can. Inhale as slowly as you can. Hold full lungs. Exhale as slowly as you can. And then 3, breathe light breath. So hypoventilation as slow as you can. And then 1 minute, just breathe as you want. Is your recovery phase. Okay? So Again, just relax. Release your shoulders. You can close your eyes. You can just be fine with yourself. Relax. Laying down if you want, or just sitting down. No tension. No tension in your forehead, in your eyes. No tension in your jaws. No tension in your teeth, the tongue on the roof of the palate. And we start together, and then everyone will take it forward. So breathing in fully and breathing out. And again, breathing in fully. Breathing out, no pauses, no stress, but fully. We breathe in from the belly up to the chest, full lungs. And we exhale, going down, no pauses again. From the belly, we go up fully. And the lungs are full, and then we exhale, just releasing. And again, fully. Breathing in, let go there. And again, belly, breathing in, and then you let go. And then you do one last hyperventilation, breathing in, and we stop and we hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let go, and hold. Now you hold as long as you can. Relax your body. It's easier if you are relaxed. No stress. You stay for as much as you feel that you can stay comfortably, and when it's going to be too challenging, you're going to breathe in with the nose as slowly as you can. Maybe you're breathing in slowly, maybe you're still holding. Everyone with his own phase. We are at the first step of the exercises. So if you are done with the breath hold, you breathe in slowly. If you've already started the breathing slowly, maybe you're holding your breath, full lungs. We are almost at 2 minutes already. We are at 2 minutes now. Maybe you already started the breathing out phase as slowly as you can, or maybe you're still holding. After the full lungs breath hold, when you cannot stay anymore, you're going to exhale as slowly as you can. And after that exhale that is as slow as you can, you're going to breathe in as slow as you can. And this is maybe the most challenging phase of the exercise. If it's too much of a challenge, just do it a little bit less. And remember these last 3 slow breath. Slow in, slow out. Breathing with the nose, of course, with your own time. And then at the end, when you will be finished, is 1 minute, just recovery. And we are almost at 3 minutes now. We are at 3 minutes now. You know, maybe some of you are still holding the first breath hold, maybe the second one, maybe you are in between those slow breaths. Maybe you are at the last 3 slow breaths, an advanced form of breathe light. Every one of you is challenging himself, but it's not a competition with others. It's just training your breath mastery with the Katana cycle. We are now at 3.5 minutes, just to give you an idea of time. And you keep practicing with your own time. No rush, no stress, no forcing. Whatever it comes now is just an indication of where you are now with the control of your breath for whatever reasons. And we are approaching the 4 minutes almost. If you are done, then do the recovery phase and just do a longer recovery phase. Otherwise, continue the exercise. We are at 4 minutes right now. I'm going to give some more time for people to keep on practicing. It's a great exercise for just, train, and then at the end breathe less, and then at the end relax. So it's just, some time for practicing with breath. We are approaching 4.5 minutes. I see still people practicing. So we're still gonna give time. for 35 now. And this time maybe it's a bit short, and then when you're gonna practice this exercise over and over again, then the time is gonna become longer. And the longer this time, and the more mastery you have in your breath. We are now at 5 minutes. So 5 minutes, I can still see people practicing, so we are still gonna give time. The other ones, if you have done just recovery, you can also write down some feelings. How was it? Was it hard? Was challenging? Which phase was the most challenging? Why? Not for yourself to know. Is that the inhale that is harder? Is that the exhale? Is that the breath hold? It was maybe the fast breath? And it's going to give you indications of what you need to improve. Maybe you are great in hypercapnia. Maybe you're not so good with hypoxia. Maybe you have a difficult control of the diaphragm, or maybe you cannot do full fast breath, or maybe you can do everything and it was just fun. We are now at 5 minutes 50. I can still see some people practicing, so I'm gonna give you a little bit more time. So take the time to recovery as well. The last minute is recovery. Don't forget that phase is important. And take some time to write down the feelings and maybe the questions that we're gonna take with Patrick in the last 10 minutes. And we are 6 minutes 25 now. I don't know if there are still some people practicing, so maybe we can stop now, and if you're still doing it, continue. But so it's already quite a long cycle. When I've been doing it with some people, generally the time is between 3 minutes and 8 minutes. That's something that I've seen so far. But of course, there will be people able to do much longer, and maybe some people doing a little bit less at the beginning. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. We talked about a lot of stuff. Hormatic breathing is the main thing that you need to take from this masterclass with me and Patrick and Lucas. So hormatic breathing to use stress as a training for breath mastery, working on the variables of breath, and the principles, and the 3 dimensions. This is just an exercise, an idea of exercise.
Thanks very much, Leo. That was very interesting. And so we'd like to open up the floor. If you have any questions, if we can help try and answer them, we will. And we can, I suppose, open it up to any questions if they don't necessarily have to be related to hormetic stress. So I'm going to put the first question on to Leo, though. Does Katana breathing timing depend on circadian rhythms also?
I think it depends on many things. I think it depends on many things. Of course, on the time of the day, there are going to be differences on your hormone levels, cortisol, adrenaline, on your digestion phase, on your metabolism, on your stress levels, your fatigue, your concentration, your thoughts. When you're going to work with breath holds anyway and breath control, all of those things are going to play a role. If you have, if you're male or female, if you have your cycle, which phase of your cycle, the luteal phase or not, of course there are differences. The ideal things is that you practice empty stomach, far from the meal, so that it's easier. I like to do that in the morning, but you can do it at other time of the day. I don't know, Lucas, if you chose some questions or I should just pick.
Yeah, I have some questions from YouTube as well. Remember, we have people in YouTube.
Of course. Hello, people.
And good. So I will take a question from Adriana Florescu. It is important to find out how clean the interior of the nose of thick mucus that is always there. So I think she's asking for ways to cleaning the nose. And I think this exercise can help a little bit with that. What do you think?
So quickly, I would say that, of course, if you want to do nose breathing exercises, it's ideal that first we have clear sinuses and clear nose, so we can do some other exercise to decongestion the nose and then clear it up. Absolutely. And then I don't know, Patrick, if you want to add a little bit about that, maybe you have
Yeah, I
more
think it's
energy.
important. Any nasal congestion, it's very important that the bolt score or control pause from Buteyko, it's a minimum of 25 seconds. So if you want to help decongest a nose, you can use breath holds. But what decongest a nose is the stress response as a result of hypercapnia. That exercise there is involving hypocapnia. So it's not necessarily going to have high CO2 towards the end. It will have high CO2, but it's not necessarily so high. So if you want to decongest your nose, do a breath hold, but don't do hyperventilation beforehand. And that will help to decongest the nose temporarily. The more you breathe through your nose, the better it works. Make sure you have your mouth closed during sleep. That's really, really important. And I would say, first of all, use breathing exercises and improve your bolt score. And that will help to decongest your nose quite a lot. And also rinse out your nose with sea salt and water. But not just about washing out your nose with sea salt and water, also maybe sniff some olive oil into the nose as well, so that the sea salt doesn't necessarily dry out the nose. But yeah, this stuff is, we've explained it. You'll find it in any of the books or different videos.
Great. That's great. Leo, want to add something to that?
No, I think the mucus also depends on the diet you have, and I've been observing that it depends on what you eat. So there are some diets that allows you to have less mucus. I've seen a direct link with how many carbohydrates I eat. So I'm Italian, I eat too much pasta, then I have more mucus, for example. But then I think it's quite another topic for this.
So
Okay, that's great. I have, yeah, shall I continue?
Please.
Okay, from Tricia Mattox from the States. I experienced vertigo for 2 hours when I practiced the Katana breathing. Any thoughts?
For 2 hours now, or is it on another time?
No. I think it was the first time we did it.
So maybe went a little bit too strong in the exercise. As Patrick was saying at the beginning, you should just, maybe just feel the phases very lightly in the 6 breath and then in the breath holds. And if you really challenge yourself with the breath holds, it's already challenging. So if you consider that you're doing 2 types of breath holds, hyperventilation and hyperventilation, and you go very hard on it, and you're tired or other things, then it can happen. So I think if you have some weird feelings when you do an exercise, you just stop and maybe try to see if you are not going too strong. I think that's a possible explanation.
Yeah, I think so. I think always to listen to your body. And when you start off, you never really know the impact of breathing exercises. I've made mistakes over the years with people coming in with panic disorder. I've put them into panic attacks. I think if you start off very gently, you can get an idea of what level you're at, and listening to the body is important.
Very important, the recovery phase at the end.
Yeah, that's great. It's important to say too that the Oxygen Advantage have plenty of exercises. We have a lot of exercises, and you can find the workout that fits your specific needs. So with the new book, new exercises, we are expanding that universe of exercises and possibilities. So this is just one of those possibilities. So that's good to say. Okay, another question from YouTube about nasal congestion. Do you think cow milk could be a big factor in causing mouth breathing in children? Are you considering this to the high amount of the population being lactose intolerant? Yeah.
This is interesting because the studies don't seem to show that, but we've had about 8,000 people attend with health issues over the last 20 years. And that question is on our questionnaire. Do you have nasal congestion? Have you gave up dairy? And has the reduction of dairy helped with your nasal congestion? 50% of people have responded yes. and 50% have responded no. So there's definitely some connection between dairy, and I'm talking about milk, ice cream, dairy-related products, and nasal congestion. At the same time, I would say get your breathing right. You know, rhinitis and perennial rhinitis or allergic rhinitis, which is hay fever, it's very common. It's about 30% of the population. It's as high as 40% in children. Teach the children the breathing exercises. They're all available from YouTube and they're free of charge. So our children's program is completely free, and you'll get that from the V.2 Clinic website. There's just an interesting, if I step in from Nigel O'Connor, bolt score is 25 seconds, but breath holding when walking really struggle to get up to 20 steps. Interesting, because if your bolt score is 25 seconds, I would expect that you can hold your breath for about 60 paces. Now, I would wonder here that you seem to have quite a strong sensitivity to the buildup of stronger air hunger. And at first thoughts, I would think there might have been a little bit of trauma here, or a little bit of panic disorder, or for example, something that we've seen with when children were swimming, if another child put their head under the water and they developed quite a strong sensitivity to carbon dioxide. Now, you would expect the bolt score to be lower. In this case, it isn't. What I would say, Nigel, is train yourself by doing the longer breath holds once you're suitable to it. So 20 steps, do about 5 to 6 repetitions, 1 to 2 times daily. Don't push it to the extreme, but you can train your ability to hold your breath for longer. That's something that you'll be doing. And the other thing is, look at your everyday breathing pattern. There's no point in doing breathing exercises, but then spending 6 or 7 hours with the mouth open, breathing hard through it, because your everyday breathing is really what influences your breathing during sleep and physical exercise. And it's all about getting the everyday breathing right. And then that in turn will improve your sleep patterns during exercise and during sleep. So back to Lucas or Leo.
Okay, thank you. I want to take this opportunity to say hi to all instructors worldwide connected right now.
Yes, we see a few familiar faces, Brian Mirabella,
Yeah,
and there's quite Michael Watts as well, I see.
Michael Watts is
Antonio.
there. Antonio, my dad. Joan is from Spain, I think, one of my instructors. And some people that is taking my training right now. Pablo, Juan Munera, Jesus, Pedro Castro. Thank you for joining this conversation. Stefan Fokker, I think, también he's from Germany. He's joining.
Martin as
Hello,
well.
Stefan. Martin as well, yeah. So say hi to everyone. Nice to have you here. So, okay, let's continue with more questions. Is there a good time to use Katana breathing? In the morning, in the evening, before, after oxygen advantage, before, after Wim Hof method? That's from Stefan.
Yeah, I think that in the morning is a quite good exercise when you are, empty stomach, far from the meals. Then you are full of energy and ready to challenge as a training. It can be also coupled up with your training. You can just use it as part of your training, because you're gonna do movement training, but you should also do breath training, and you can do it at the beginning. Maybe you want to warm up, or you can do it at the end to make a transition with some breathing exercises. Maybe first you do Katana, then you do some breathe light or breath recovery to go down. And because I do quite a lot of Wim Hof and Wim Hof workshop, of course, I've been trying to do first some hyperventilation or Wim Hof breathing, and then Katana breathing. And then Katana breathing afterwards is really easy to do, because you start from a much lower CO2 levels. So all the phases of the Katana breath seems easier. And what's happening is that at the end, using the cycle and using the recovery phase, then you come back to neutral in terms of biochemistry. So it can be a good combination of exercises. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, that's great. Someone said, my hands become cold during the exercise.
Yes, this would be normal, and this is due to the drop in hypoxia. The body is sensing that your blood oxygen saturation is dropping, And the body wants to conserve blood flow and oxygen for the heart and brain. So it will shut down the peripheral circulation. So it's very normal that your hands get cold when you either hyperventilate, or if you do, well, it's especially if you do breath holding. Hyperventilation can also cause your hands to get cold, of course, because you're losing carbon dioxide. So there's two effects there. The hyperventilation, by losing carbon dioxide, your blood vessels constrict, and the breath holding, by lowering blood oxygen saturation, the blood vessels in your hand can constrict.
And if you do the exercise also with a good hyperventilation at the end, those three very short, very slow breath, then you should be able to go again into hypercapnia. That's also the end of the exercise, and then should allow you to have vasodilation at the extremities and get hot blood again to the hands. So when I practice that, actually I have a lot of heat going to my hands. It's like the breathe light exercise. When you do it and you go hypercapnic at the end, then you feel that. So maybe you should see if you can balance better the hypoxic part of the exercise, that is at the beginning, and the hypercapnic part, that is the second one. And for what I've seen so far, it's not so easy to go hypercapnic because it is really not comfortable at the beginning. So that means going a little bit slower in the last three breaths.
Okay, cool. I think we can take one more question to finish, if you agree. Hi, Juliano from Brazil, master instructor in Brazil, the first one. Nice to have you here. He's in YouTube. And Juan Landaida from Chile. He's taking my training. Hi to you as well. Okay. Here is a question outside of the subject, but I think it's a very good question. And do you have any breathing during boxing? When I'm getting punched and punching, I get whipped out in later rounds. So for sports performance and this specific thing, maybe Patrick can.
I think there's one aspect here is what we have to do is, what is your functional breathing patterns like? You know, your breathing during boxing is reflected by your breathing outside of the ring. And there's no point in just training. Physical training is not going to train your breathing patterns. Reducing the ventilatory response to carbon dioxide can happen during severe physical training, but a much better approach will be to improve your everyday breathing. There's probably about 20 to 30% of the population have dysfunctional breathing patterns. And people with anxiety and panic disorder, it increases to 75%. So what I would say is improve your functional breathing. And as a result, then you're less likely to gas out too soon. The second aspect is do breath holding involving hypoxic hypercapnia. In other words, maybe do your pads when you're on the pads. Breathe in through your nose and out through your nose and hold your breath while you're on the pads. And exercise on the pads while holding the breath to build up a strong air hunger. And then to let go with nasal breathing for about a minute or two. And then on the pads again, or even on the bag or whatever you're training with, shadow boxing even, breathe in and out through your nose and hold your breath again to build up a moderate to strong air hunger. So it's important to expose your body to high carbon dioxide. Now, this is a little bit different than what we spoke with Leo, because the exercise that we did today involved hyperventilation and then breath holding. But normally when we're working with athletes, we don't do the hyperventilation beforehand. And the reason being is if you hyperventilate and then hold your breath, your blood oxygen saturation can go too low so that you could pass out. Now, Leo gave you the instruction today of do it sitting down. And the reason that you could pass out as a result of hyperventilation and long breath holds is because the hyperventilation gets rid of a lot of carbon dioxide from the blood through the lungs, and carbon dioxide is your alarm to breathe. So when you lower the CO2 in the lungs, when you lower the CO2 in the blood, you don't feel the sensation to breathe. And as a result, you can hold your breath for really a long time. And this can give sufficient time for your blood oxygen saturation to drop. So there are different effects, but you can bring in breath holding into your physical exercise, but don't do the hyperventilation before the breath holding.
Lucas, there is quite a nice question because from Bruno asking, is this going to help me to run faster? It's quite a nice question, I think. And yes, of course it is going to help you, because if you train your breath, and in running, the breath is key. So if you improve in the control of CO2, in the tolerance of CO2, and in control of hypoxia, then you're gonna work in the aerobic and anaerobic chains. So it's going to help you.
Yes, as well as improving respiratory muscle strength as well. So with a thicker diaphragm, you're less likely to respiratory muscle fatigue. About 50% of athletes experience respiratory muscle fatigue, and this results in blood stealing from the legs to feed the diaphragm. So there's a number of different fronts that you can improve your breathing for sports performance.
Okay, I think, well, a last question, maybe. Chris say, I was monitoring my SpO2 with the pulse oximeter during the exercise, obviously because of hyperventilation, went to low 80s. Shall we could short that breath hold if it goes lower than a certain level?
Yeah, well, I think 80 is okay. It's fine. It's great training actually, and it means that you have been doing quite good actually in the exercise. I think you should stop the breath hold if you see it going lower than 60, but 80, I think is good.
Yes. Yeah, it's only when it really drops below. If it goes below 70, you feel disoriented, and if you go below 60 and especially below 50, that there's risk of passing out. You wouldn't do this by just doing a breath hold alone, but it's the hyperventilation with the breath hold that really has a strong hypoxic effect. So mid-80s is fine. That's severe hypoxia, and it's a good stress. That's a fair stress to the body. You would be typically at a height of about maybe about 5,400 meters at rest, say in around 5,000 meters to reach low 80s.
You went on the top of Mont Blanc.
Okay, I think that was all. We had more questions, but I think we can cover them in other opportunity. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Leo, for that information. Very, very useful, very powerful. And Patrick, for all your insights and your work, because it's for you that all of us are here. So that's honor for us to be part of the Oxygen Advantage team.
So if people want to reach out to Leo and yourself, Lucas, how can they do it?
Leo, please.
Yeah, of course. So on my website, Inspire Potential, or on Instagram or Facebook, it's called Inspire Potential. You can find me also with my name, Leonardo Pelagotti. But in general, Inspire Potential would be the best way. Yes.
.com.
Okay.
Yeah, inspirepotential.com, and on social media is Inspire Potential. Yes.
Yeah, very good information in Leo's website. So go and take a little look to that. To me, you can find me as El Respironauta. Almost all my content is in Spanish because I'm bringing the method to Spanish. So if you have people, you can follow us as well in Oxygen Advantage en Español, Oxygen Advantage en Español. If you speak Spanish and you are interested in have the method in your language, we have Melissa Prieto, Antonio Jose Osorio, and me as master instructors teaching the method and bringing more instructors to the Spanish market. So go and follow us and support the breathing in different languages, and follow us in social media as well. Use the hashtag I use my nose. We want to promote the use of our noses. And of course, leave your comments, share our content, and let's make breathing mainstream again, because it deserves it, and there is a lot to people to impact with this information. So thank you all for being here.
Thanks to everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Take care.
Bye, Brian. That's a very big watermelon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.